Before we start, I'd like to give a special thanks to Nintendo of America for providing us with this review copy. One thing that has always been beloved by the fans of the Legend of Zelda series is its music. It shouldn't come as a surprise then that the series was given a rhythm game. What is a surprise, however, is that this rhythm game is a crossover sequel to Crypt of the Necrodancer, an indie rhythm dungeon crawler roguelike game. That's a mouthful. Cadence of Hyrule brings a brand new style to the Zelda series, but just how good is it? Is dancing around Hyrule just as fun as it sounds in concept, or is keeping to the rhythm just a chore? My name is Tris, and let's find out in this review. Cadence of Hyrule opens up with Cadence falling into a mysterious world different from her own. She then wakes up Link or Zelda depending on the player's choice, and the adventure begins. Hyrule came under attack by a strange villain named Octavo, and the heroes, being Link, Zelda, and Cadence, must stop him. The trio must overcome 4 dungeons across Hyrule, then challenge Octavo in Hyrule Castle. Overall, it's a simple plot that gets the gameplay going incredibly quickly. It's got some charm, but I can't really say I was playing the game for the plot. My one real gripe with it is that Octavo feels like an outsider to the world of Hyrule, but where he comes from is never addressed, nor is his fate at the end of the game. I feel like there was some missed potential for him as a villain. The gameplay to Cadence of Hyrule is one that, from my experience, takes getting used to. In my first hour with the game, I must have died about a dozen times. Players navigate the world in grid-based movement. When there are enemies in the area, any movement and action must be to the beat of the music. Thankfully, it doesn't simply rely on hearing the tune and matching the beat, as there's an indicator of a Triforce along the bottom of the screen with bars going through it. If the player times their movements or actions to when the bars meet in the center, they stay on the beat. If the player stays on beat for a while and doesn't take damage from enemies, the Triforce turns rainbow in color and a multiplier is added. Some weapons make use of this multiplier to add additional damage. The game is filled with plenty of items and weapons to be used by the player, some exclusive to specific characters. As the game plays rather quickly and doesn't do much in the way of hand-holding tutorials, it can take some trial and error to understand how the items work and interact with the surrounding environment, especially as many make use of stamina. I personally found that the game gets difficult to stick to the beat when surrounded by a ton of enemies. If you get yourself cornered, that multiplier goes away as soon as you're hit, even if you're staying on beat in your attacks. If you don't have any longer ranged weapons, getting cornered is practically a death sentence. Luckily, this game isn't too punishing for game overs. As long as you're collecting diamonds by clearing enemies out of areas, you can spend them for some extra help upon death. Plus, the game is littered with Sheikah stones across the map, allowing for warping to basically anywhere. It really helps get right back on your feet after an unfortunate game over. A feature I particularly liked is the ability to infuse weapons with an element, which can be done at fairy fountains. Combining, let's say, a broadsword, which has the horizontal range of 3 spaces ahead of you, with obsidian, gives increased damage and even more based on your beat multiplier. This ended up being my favorite weapon in the game, and there's plenty to pick from once you find them. The gameplay as a whole on Cadence of Hyrule is very fun, but it certainly takes being able to focus. It's not a game I'd recommend playing in a crowded area in handheld mode unless you've got some good headphones. It's not a particularly long game, but with the randomization of finding items and even exploring the map itself, as well as additional modes such as a single character and daily challenges, and various options such as permadeath or double beat mode, there's plenty to do in this game that adds replay value. It only makes sense to open this next section with the Lionel in the Room. The soundtrack to Cadence of Hyrule is fantastic. It's filled with plenty of references to other Zelda games. The Bolero of Fire from Ocarina of Time playing in the Gerudo Ruins, the Great Sea from Wind Waker being mixed into the overworld theme, and even the title theme being a remix to the title of Ocarina of Time. Most of the music is reminiscent of Link to the Past, much like the visuals of the game itself. While overall visual style of the game best reflects A Link to the Past, the enemy designs actually vary quite a bit. Bokoblins are like a mix of their appearances in Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild. Lizalfos look closer to their Breath of the Wild appearance. Moblins are more like their Skyward Sword appearances. Darknuts resemble their Wind Waker and Minish Cap appearance. Some enemies come straight from other games, such as the Talus from Breath of the Wild and Dyra from Adventure of Link. It's clear that Cadence of Hyrule was made in celebration of the Zelda series as a whole, taking from multiple games in the series. References aside, Cadence of Hyrule is very clean. The game is filled with UI indicators to help the player, and with the option to turn off the beat, it's also very accessible. For those looking for a challenge to their gameplay, the game also offers double beat mode, permadeath, and even a hard mode unlockable character, Eves, the Deku Scrub that can't use most items or weapons. The game is very clearly made to appeal to players looking for a fun little adventure or a hardcore challenge. With leaderboards tracking speedrun times and total steps taken as well, it may even appeal to the competitive player. Cadence of Hyrule is a fantastic game that truly appeals to Zelda fans. I'll admit, I never played the original Crypt of the Necrodancer, so I was a little skeptical, yet excited when the game was first revealed. After spending hours with this game, achieving a full 100% file and already starting a second run, as well as a hard mode run with Eves the Deku Scrub, I can confidently say that I love Cadence of Hyrule, and I see myself returning to this game often for quite some time. If you're a fan of the Zelda series, Crypt of the Necrodancer, dungeon crawlers, roguelike games, or rhythm games, I highly recommend giving this game a try. It should be well worth your time. Before we go, I'd like to give a very special thanks to all of our patrons, including our super patron, the Duke of Dorks. You can find a link to his channel in the description below. If you like this video, give us a like. Want to share your thoughts on the game? Leave a comment below, or let us know on Twitter or Discord, which you can find the links to in the description. Make sure to subscribe to Source Gaming for more, and always remember to return to the source.